Hello, and welcome to PharmD Unscripted, where we inspire you, educate you, and guide you to write the prescription for your life. I am Dr. Bree.
And I am Dr. LaQuita J.
We are your hosts of this lovely podcast. So, without further ado, let's get unscripted.
Welcome, everyone, to PharmD Unscripted. So today's episode is a call to action. Recently, I came across an article on Reddit.com in which it was about a pharmacist who she shared a story that she experienced. So the story says, I have been with a retail pharmacy for 10 years as a PIC, suffering like most, if not all retail pharmacists. But I got really fed up when my DM, which is district manager, told me over the phone that one of the pharmacists in our district took his own life. Plus, I know many pharmacists diagnosed recently with hypertension and heart issues after working for a long time with this retail pharmacy. I know we all think of our expenses and mortgage and kids before we take any action, but every day it gets worse and worse. They cut more hours and ask for more measures plus horrible unprofessional treatment from management. We need to do something before it's too late. Either union or organization to protect us. We are not asking for much. We need to be treated fairly. We need lunch breaks, enough help. We need to go to the bathroom when we get the urge, not 5 hours later. If anyone has experience with unions, please share or any other ideas to make our lives a little better. Thanks.
Wow, that was one response. And I think that came from when there was some cuts being announced by a major retail grocery pharmacy. And this is really real. Like, there are people who are struggling. And to be a healthcare professional, it almost feels like we're not a healthcare professional because I know when I was in school, I really wanted to help people and really get them on a track to have a healthier life. And it seems as though even when you want to use your judgment or you say this medication can't be filled because X, Y, and Z, there are corporations that are saying, well, we can't have any upset customers, so you need to just give it to them. And then this whole thing of no break, no lunches, I just think it's absolutely crazy. Now, when I thought about getting into pharmacy when I was about 16, I wasn't thinking about any of those things really because you're young and you don't really think about the future that much as far as things like that, as far as a positive or a nourishing work environment. But after getting into the workforce, after completing my PharmD, I was just like, this is crazy. And when you get older, I know it's harder. And so I have been wanting a call to action for a very long time. Pharmacists, one thing that I wished could change and that I would love to see change is for us to start using our voices, start voicing our opinions, start standing up and standing to management. And a lot of times with pharmacists, we say so many things amongst each other, but we don't say it to the people who really matter, who can change things and make change ourselves. We depend on organizations. We just say, well, I'm going to just have to suck it up because I need this money. But we have to stop.
Everything starts with self. Always self. And honestly, I feel, well, let's one with this article. Suicide, to know, okay, we hear a lot. I mean, I guess I have heard many stories of doctors committing suicide, medical students committing suicide because how intense the program is. And again, that strive to perfection. But pharmacists, that's something I guess I didn't hear because that's one of the main reasons I decided to be a pharmacist was because of it was allegedly had the best work-life balance in the healthcare field.
That's interesting. And you know what? I remember my second year of pharmacy school, I have a cousin who is an attorney. And she asked me one day, why are pharmacists stressing out so much? Because she brought an article to my attention where the suicide rates for pharmacists was increasing, and even more so over attorneys. And they used to have a very high suicide rate. I don't know if they still do. I haven't done that research yet. But that is really interesting. I think at one time the work-life balance in pharmacy was pretty good, but a lot of people are saying that there is not really work-life balance. It's a struggle, a major struggle.
And the thing of it is, I'll say the work-life balance. And I would say in order to survive retail, most pharmacists take antidepressants.
And that's crazy, especially if they weren't on those type of things before. And I know there are a lot of pharmacists that are prescribed Adderall, to help concentrate and get the work done. And it's just like, we have to use our voices. We really, really do. And I think one thing that helps a lot of times with doctors and nurses is that they have television shows or movies where people are seeing their struggles, seeing what they have to deal with. But when you look around, there are no television shows about pharmacists. There are no TV shows or books or anything. And if somebody does want to write one or start a show, your girl wants a role. Okay, remember Dr. Bree, and I'm gonna need my coin, okay? I'm gonna need my coin. So if you go out there and you heard it on PharmD Unscripted, remember me, okay? Give me a little kickback. But yeah, so I think that we don't speak up and out. We aren't sharing our stories, and we aren't being transparent when district managers come around and people are like, well, see, I don't want to lose my job. But isn't your happiness, isn't your health, isn't it worth that? I feel like, yes, pharmacy is saturated. Have a game plan. But we need to come together because this has to change. If not us, then who?
Yes, if not us, then who? I mean, granted, there are clauses and policies in our company that covers mental health. However, I personally think, in my opinion, that there should be just a mental health day. But in our profession, you can't have a mental health day because if you don't show up, the pharmacy can't. In the community, I was in the community pharmacy world. If you don't show up, the pharmacy can't open. So therefore, I can't afford to say I need a mental health day.
Right, girl, you can't even afford to be a sick. Okay, it can't even be a sick day. If you're sick, they like, well, roll the hospital bed on up out here because you're gonna have to open a pharmacy. So just lay in the hospital bed in the pharmacy, child. You can't even be sick. A lot of times they're like, well, can you come in? And I mean, I understand it. I get it. But it's just like, what kind of policies, what kind of things need to change so that we are afforded those times? Because I know, like, one of my boundaries, if I'm sick, I'm sorry, I cannot come in, because I wouldn't just call out if I really wasn't sick. And I mean, I understand sometimes there's different people, but there has to be some other policies and things put in place. I think it has to stop being so much about all this money. I understand money is important. I understand that, it's great to make a profit, but how much is a profit worth over people's lives?
I totally agree. And I think the reasons, as the article mentioned, that we do need to do something because it's too late. And I totally agree with a union or organization. And as she mentioned, that's, I think, some of the reasons why I think pharmacists have such a hard time, because as mentioned in the article, we do not have lunch breaks. We're expected to work. In my case, some days I work 12-hour shifts, 12 hours, no break, consistently busy at all times, and little help. And don't let it be a day when a technician feels they're in a bad mood. That's 12 hours of just insanity.
Yeah, and I think even a lot of times when people do have a chance to eat a little something, you really aren't able to just do that because There's always someone that needs help with something, always somebody who needs to talk to the pharmacist. So it's really hard to do that. And I know another point that I wanted to bring up is the fact that pharmacists in the profession of pharmacy is becoming so divided. When we look at a clinical pharmacist or a hospital pharmacist versus a community pharmacist versus a government pharmacist, all these different sectors, people are like, look at it and say, well, that's not me, so that's you guys' fight. That's not me, so this doesn't impact me. Well, I'm here, so, and people get complacent. And we have to fight for our whole entire profession. If it doesn't matter if it doesn't directly affect you, it's still a pharmacist. It's still pharmacy. And I think that's a sure way that our profession will die if we don't come together. But we have this hierarchy on who's so important and who's beneath. And, well, you guys need to do this. How about we all do this? How about we all get on the same bandwagon and say, no, this is not okay? How about people who do have a position that is maybe more fulfilling, open the doors and try to get other people who are also trying to get into those same careers, give some guidance. And so I think that's important too in this call of action, is that we have to stop being so divided. We have to come together and we have to save the pharmacy profession. Otherwise, there really will not be one, or very limited.
Yes, I do agree. So I think it's so many factors that go into it. Why are we allowing corporations to define, dictate our profession? Like, why do pharmaceutical companies, why do you think pharmaceutical companies give us all these kickbacks? Like, they give it to the pharmacy schools and the pharmacists and some of these organizations.
I hope not the pharmacists, because that may be a little bit kind of illegal.
Think about it. Here's, and I would say, and this is I would even say, like, it's a kind of unsubtle kind of kickback. Think about it. When we're in pharmacy school, you want to attend all those free CE dinners, right? Those CE dinners are hosted by manufacturers and pharmaceutical companies. So they become more trusted. Think about how I had a doctor tell me one time, I used to love those Cipro breakfasts during medical school. Cipro. They call it Cipro because the manufacturer of ciprofloxacin will host a weekly breakfast for them. But think about when you're in practice and you're like, oh, I need to prescribe this drug to a patient, you're going to think of Cipro. So that's the thing of when it comes like to pharmacists, like, you got to think how we're embedded. And even pharmacy schools, we have so many. We like to thank our sponsors and we list them. And it's so funny how we always end up in retail after pharmacy school. That's always like, be mindful of that. And it's like, but it's also too, but back to the point, it's like, why are we letting corporations dictate and run our profession? Why aren't we are the ones who are doing the labor. We are the ones that making them rich. So we can have a voice in it. And I also think it all comes too with a change of mind. When you realize healthcare is a business, it's not a need where it once was formed to help people and better them. It has really become a business.
Right. And that is so, so true. And I think that even like some of the television shows are highlighting that, like Amsterdam, I've heard. And it was another one. I don't know about
The Resident. The Resident, go watch that TV show because I would say the season 1, that first 2 episodes reminded me of being on a rotation, especially internal medicine rotation, and you being you feel like you're less than. How you have to go through this entire hazing process to show your worth, that you are worthy to be in the profession.
Yeah, and I think that's a problem in clinical pharmacist programs like residencies, even though I think that's all a mind game too. Like, we all went to school, we all clinically have experience, and just because you do another year or 2, I'm not trying to knock it. It's wonderful. It's great to have more experience, but I do think that a lot of times people experience kind of like a hazing almost in those type of programs. And not only that, there are plenty of people who do want to pursue those programs and don't get in But I don't think that doesn't mean that they're not capable of doing it. But that's another show for another time. But yes, I do think that that show is very, very accurate as far as how the healthcare system is running in the United States today. Is more of a business than really actually caring for the patient. Yes. And then it's just being like, oh, we're doing this for the patient. Like that's just the covering. That's the covering. But that's not what's really, going on and really driving things. We have to understand, of course, yes, it is a business. You do want to make money. I'm not saying that. But it just seems as though now making money is taking priority over everything. Patients' actual health, pharmacists' actual health, and career fulfillment. It's like, no, you're doing this, we're giving you the money, this is what we want you to do, and we don't want you to have anything to say. And we have to cut those times out. We have to start using our voices. And I know it's hard. I know it's tough when you're like, well, I got this to pay for. I got this. But we have to not only just rely on these organizations to represent us, we have to represent us.
We do. It starts with us. And it's also, too, I would say, even at the exposure, like, know your surroundings. Are we keeping up with current events? Do we have to have a seat at the table and have something to say at that seat? Because I think that's really our problem. And we as pharmacists, we have to advocate. We have to advocate these changes. Also advocate for change. We have to.
Right. We fought, well, I didn't necessarily fight, but, we as in pharmacists fought for pharmacy to become a doctorate program. But then is that where it fights? I mean, is that where it ends? That we just wanted to be known as doctors? We just wanted to have a doctorate degree? Or are we going to really keep busting down doors and showing people our value, what pharmacists can do, and how we are so valuable to the healthcare system? We have to have that same passion. We have to be a part of everything, of all the decisions. We can't sit back any longer and just write on the coattails and just say, well, you know, blah, blah, or we don't really need to go to that because that doesn't concern us. No, everything concerns us. That's the attitude that we need to have. No, you need a pharmacist on your team. You know what? You need five pharmacists on your team. We have to no longer, I will even say, have a seat at a table. We need to create our table.
Yes. Don't even beg for a seat.
We gonna just create it.
Take in the hands of director, producer Tyler Perry.
Yes, Tyler.
He didn't wait for Hollywood to invite him. He created his own Hollywood to the point where Atlanta is known as the Black Hollywood.
Yep. And I thought that was so inspirational to see his growth and see where he came from and to see that he didn't have to have someone else believe in him. He believed in himself. And that's what we all have to do. We have to believe in ourselves. We have to believe in our profession. And we have to believe in each other and help lift each other up so that we can make the necessary changes that we want to see to make everyone's life in this profession better.
Yes, just like, so we as pharmacists have to define what FAR is. How can we change? How can we be an asset to the public health, to the world? Which brings me to our jewel of the day. Be the change that you wish to see in the world. That's by Gandhi. As pharmacists, student pharmacists, pre-pharmacy students, and pharmacy technicians, we have to be the change that we wish to see in the pharmacy profession. It starts by identifying that we have problems and we have to advocate for solutions, whether that be to the board of pharmacy, pharmacy organizations, or whomever else in the healthcare industry. But we have to identify, provide solutions, and advocate those.
Yes. So that's our show for today. We hope that you enjoyed it. We hope that you received something from it and that this episode really helped you. We want to interact with you and hear your thoughts specifically about this episode on Facebook or Instagram. Look out for our posts. Remember, sharing is caring. So tell a colleague or a friend to come join in the fun at PharmD Unscripted. Follow us on our social media platforms of Facebook and Instagram at PharmD Unscripted. You can interact with us, leave feedback, share your stories, and all that goodness that social media has to offer. Until next time, we will see you later.